Hey everyone, and welcome to The Drop. This is our first episode. This is a segment from Off the Hiring Record where we cover anonymous confessions and questions from recruiters, hiring managers, and candidates. This is for everyday people like you and me, but to be honest, this is for everyone. There is zero judgment, 100% anonymity, and to be honest, we don't care what your industry background or experience is. We just want to create a safe space for everyone. But enough talking from me. You know the deal, so let's drop. Simon, thank you so much. It's great to see you again. Last time we had you on another podcast, which was Crafty Saucer, but you're back again to share some of your wisdom and insights on the drop.
Yeah, thanks, Denise. No, happy to be here. It's always great to have a chat, have a yarn about stuff happening in the tea industry, and then share some stories.
Yeah, awesome. Simon, we were obviously doing a bit of banter before we went live just now, and we were talking about, off the hiring record and the platform. So, as I'd explained to you earlier, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a confession and we're going to answer two questions. And this is for the listeners and the watchers. What we will do is we'll tackle one confession. Obviously, we do not know who the person is, where they've actually submitted from, what their background is, nothing. And then we're going to answer two questions. Again, we are not judging anyone. This is everything that we share here is based off our own experience, and swearing is absolutely allowed because at the end of the day, we are just people. So, Simon, what I'm going to do here is you can't see, but I'm actually looking at the platform for Off the Hiring Record. But first of all, I'd love to get your take on it. Like, what did you think? And look, again, I'm always up for feedback, good, bad, ugly. Tell me, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I love it. I love the simplicity of it and the mission behind it. So I've been coming from over a decade of recruitment experience, mostly in the tech sector. I've had quite a few roles where I'm the only recruiter in a business, as have many
Mm,
people in TA, right? And even when you're not, sometimes it's very isolating, particularly in a remote first world. So having something like this, I think, is just a great sanity check. Sometimes when you're up against it, and sometimes you go to sleep and you think, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that," or "Why did I do that?" Or, and I'm sure plenty of recruiters are out there is just as kind of conscientious as I am. You jump on this site and you read just two or three of these confessions, and you think, oh, like, it's not just me. I mean, it
mm,
doesn't mean that you go, I'm going to keep doing, keep making
yeah,
mistakes or keep doing things that I'm not proud of. It's not really
yeah,
about that. It's just about kind
mm,
of acknowledging that you're human. There's other humans out there who we all want to do the best we can in our job, but sometimes things happen and it doesn't always go the way we plan. So it's just nice to know that there are loads of other people out there who are
mm,
facing the same challenges. It's the same
mm.
reason I love going to talent acquisition conferences, because you connect with
Correct.
people. People talk about things on stage. You look around, everyone's going, "Yep, yep, that's me." And it's just that kind of connection on a larger scale. I think is super helpful in our role.
Yeah, 100%. And I agree with you. And look, at the end of the day, like it's not even about, coming on here and bashing recruiters or bashing candidates. The idea is that, we all we've all been in the hiring side or the hiring fence from all different angles. And there's a side to every story. There's the recruiter side, there's the candidate side, there's a hiring manager side, and then there's the in between, right? And that in between is this platform, because it's not about even choosing side, it's just about having a side and come and tell your story, because everybody's here to listen, and the idea is that we all want to hear about it. And at the end of the day, like you said, there are some of us who don't get that, who are a bit camera shy. There are people who don't like to be in the limelight, but there are people, most of us, who have thought about something and want to share something, but we've never had the opportunity to say it, or we don't know where to start. And usually we'll go to people that we feel most safe with, most seen with, and that's usually family and friends. But what if we were to go to people that we don't know but have experienced very similar things like us, challenges like us? But also there are others who have opinions about it. So let's hear from you. So, Simon, the first one is, this is actually one of the confessions that have probably got the most votes so far. And I'm going to read it out to you. And I would love to get your take on it. And I find it very, very interesting. It's actually something I've previously experienced in the past myself. So I'm going to read this out. This person has said, I once worked with a manager who would reject candidates because they weren't Western enough. As an example, their accent and their language. It made me feel like a shitty recruiter for passing on generic feedback to the candidate. I challenged the hiring manager, and his response was, if I'm saying no, the client will definitely say no. That was one of my early interactions on why I don't like consultancies or agencies. It can be cutthroat. Well, it seems like this person is coming, or probably their experience is from their time back at consultancies or agencies. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, don't work in consulting. No. Um, Look, I spent 4 years or nearly 5 years working in consulting, so I totally understand where this person's coming from, and I've met hiring managers like this. Um, it is the classic domino effect. You
Mm,
have, and let's just call it what it is. You have a racist client. Consultants will basically do whatever they can, bend over backwards to make the client happy, because that's, without a client, you don't have a business. So they'll just pass on any biases, to other parts of the
mm,
business, including talent acquisition. So I totally get it. It is the really ugly reality of what happens in consulting. Um, and honestly, if you're speaking to candidates that are not Western, or have accents or anything like that, the feedback I'd be giving them is actually, you're doing them a favor. It might not feel like it, but you're actually dodging a bullet here. Like, from what I've been told by the hiring manager, what the client is like, you don't want to work here.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's a lot of candidates. Obviously, candidates will always struggle to hear a no, always.
Mm,
And
mm,
there's a really fantastic thing that I can't remember his name. He's an ex FBI negotiator. He's got a great book called Never Split the Difference. I can't remember his name, Chris something. Anyway, he has a thing called an accusational audit. And so when you begin the conversation, kind of you assume all the things the candidate's going to be feeling and you name them.
mm,
So it's
mm,
like, I know this is going to be feeling, you're going to be frustrated. I get that you're probably feeling upset, that you probably think you have another chance, that, like, if only you could just prove yourself, like, and you can just name about a half dozen of them, right? And what it does is it
mm,
kind of puts you in this position where it's not you talking about the candidate, you're a third party observer, kind of viewing the situation and talking to the space in between, which I find is really useful to have that chat.
mm.
As much as I would love to say, as a recruiter, we can change the dynamic of that client and the hiring manager who's working with that client, the short-term reality is you can't. Like,
Mm.
if a
Yeah.
client's going to be racist, a client's going to be racist. If the business chooses to do business with that person, despite knowing what they know about them and their views, that's kind of outside your control. So you have a couple of choices. Obviously, you can start to look to work somewhere else, which, if you're working in a consulting firm, I would highly recommend. Get out of consulting and work somewhere else if you can.
Yeah.
If not, then it's your job to protect those candidates, and protecting them
Mm,
means, like, don't bring them through, because if
mm.
they do end up working there, even if someone decides to kind of, like, squeeze them in, I will try and make it work, their life is going to be hell. So you're
Yeah.
actually doing them a favor. So you just kind of reframe it, and then honestly pass that information on to the candidate. Not about the fact that the client's racist, but just, I've heard lots of information about this client and this project, and
Yeah.
actually, I'm going to tell you, I don't think we should bring you through. This is not going to be a good
Mm,
place to be.
mm, mm. And I think reading that also, you can tell that this person was kind of torn because, they say that it made them feel like a shitty recruiter for passing on generic feedback where there probably might have been a part of them that actually wanted to be a bit more truthful, but they obviously couldn't because then a discrimination comes into play there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a horrible world that we live in. Unfortunately, there are loads of
Yeah.
great companies out there, tons,
Mm-hmm.
but there's
Mm,
also just as many shit ones,
mm,
with
mm,
people with shit ideas and shit biases,
mm.
and that's why I just think about it in terms of protection. Like, the candidates that you're talking about, um, if they're getting rejected purely based on the way they look or the way they sound, like,
Mm.
they are better off. They don't want
Yeah.
to work there.
Yeah.
And that's, even if you can't tell that to the candidate, just know that within yourself, you're actually helping them dodge a
Correct.
bullet.
Correct. And I think in recruitment, we do have a duty of care towards our candidates, right, in some shape or form, without having to explicitly say certain things to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
candidates won't. It's hard when you can't share explicit details
Mm,
to help a candidate, in the moment. But I think that's where you can just focus purely on empathy and connection and just validate their
Correct.
feelings.
Correct.
That's where the accusational audit can be really helpful in those conversations.
Yeah. Well, I hope whoever that person was who put that in, if they listen to this, I hope that they moved on and they're a lot more happier where they are as well. We'll move on to the question section of this. And Simon, thank you so much. I love the fact that you touched on empathy, because that should always be one of the first things we as recruiters should lean into when we are passing on feedback, right? Now, this is a very interesting question. And so this person has asked, does networking actually help? What if you are not so social, but you're good at your work? Your boss knows it as well, but you're still not getting opportunities. Now, what I'm getting from this question is they're not getting internal opportunities to get into other internal roles. And they want to know that is it okay for them to network outside of that? But they're not really good at doing that either. So does it actually help them if they were to look outside of that? I have an answer to that, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, cool. All right, I'm gonna just dive in with a strong opinion on this one. In the right business, you know what, in any business, but even in the right business with a really positive culture and collaborative nature, 100% networking and getting face time with people across the board, even outside of your direct sphere, will help. If you're not present in that business, and when I say present, I mean if people don't know you, and it's not about being loud, it's not about being the biggest person in the room or the biggest personality or being, super outrageous at like company retreats and stuff. It's not about that. If you're not present and just and seen as actively contributing, and I know this sounds a bit silly, then it's almost like you're not there, right? So I love remote working. Like remote working is the best. I do it all the time. But it's important to try and connect and coordinate with the people that you work with on a regular basis, particularly when you first start a job. If you can get in the office, 2 times a week, 3, even if it's like once a week, but on those days you're spending time with your hiring managers, with your CTO, with your engineering managers, and I'm obviously speaking particularly about engineering hiring. The conversations and the connections that happen just in the moment when you're there, sitting next to the person or in the corridor, and you could just see the CTO. Oh, hey, Joe Blogs, I've just got 4 more candidates. I've just sent them to you. I'd really love your opinion. Oh yeah, no, I saw the other candidate. Hey, what do you think about this? Like those in-person conversations. It's not even about
Correct.
networking, right? It's just you're just doing your job.
Correct.
Present is definitely being one, and I would classify that as part of networking. But then it is about pushing yourself outside your comfort zone and reaching out to others in the business, not for anything business related, but just to get to know what they do. Right.
Correct.
The best way to get into networking is just ask questions. You don't have to contribute anything. You don't have to be the person with all the answers and all the information and be the super charming, amazing person. People love talking about themselves and what they do. So if you just come to it with, hey, Lucy Smith, I would love to catch up for coffee with you. I'd love to learn more about your role and what you do for our business, because it helps me understand the business more broadly and it helps me in my role. Could we catch up for a 10, 15-minute coffee when you're in the office next? Oh, yeah, sure. And then you just ask the question, hey, what do you do? How does it impact the business? What does good look like? And that's it. Like, and just say thank you. And just good manners after that. It's just please, thank you. And, appreciate your help. It makes all the difference. That's just my approach. And obviously for some of us, it comes really naturally to us. So I appreciate that's a natural advantage. But even if it doesn't come naturally to you, I feel like there's simple little steps that if you just follow them over time, networking is accumulative. So you might not see it initially, but it is an exponential curve. And over time, it'll ramp up and it will make a big impact in how you overall succeed long-term in a business.
Yeah. I have 2 things to add to what you just said. So based on what they've asked, so they said, does networking help? What if you're not so social, but you're good at your job? Your boss knows it too, but you're still not getting opportunities. So my question would be back to this person is, have you actually spoken to your boss about opportunities? Have you actually brought it up with them? Obviously,
do they know?
are very, do they know? Yeah. Have you had this conversation with them to begin with? And if they are well aware of your capabilities, what are they doing to make sure that you're successful and you're not forgotten. That's the first part of it. Because a lot of 10 out of, sometimes when I talk to people, especially internal who are applying, one of the first questions we always ask them is, does your manager know? Because if they don't know, then there's a problem there. That why you're not talking to them first before talking to recruitment when you're looking within, let's say, Zendesk or any company for that matter. The second thing I would say is that when people should not just look at networking as an opportunity to find something, if it turns into something, yes. But like in this instance, it sounds like, this person is not very social or they're not comfortable with it. But then, like to your point, it has to be a slow and gradual process where they are comfortable with it. And your example of, start within the business is actually such a good example of doing that, is because people within the business, you're comfortable with that. Start with your safe haven and then explore outside of that. Networking doesn't have
100%.
to be external. It can always be start with internal and then
Yeah,
go external as well. Yeah.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
couldn't agree more. Like, don't jump straight to level 10. you know, start with, as you said, start with the easy bits first and get your practice in. I'll
Correct.
recommend another book actually related to this.
Yeah.
Vanessa Van Edwards. She was on an episode of Diary of a CTO. Shout out to Diary of a
Oh,
CTO.
yeah. Yeah.
Stephen Bartlett, great podcast.
Yes.
She is a body language and signals expert, just decades of research in this space, and has a couple of good books, but specifically around people who struggle with social interactions, picking up social signals, communicating the right levels of both competence and what she calls warmth. And you need to get both of those in order to, I think, effectively communicate in any business. She has some great, really simple strategies. So yeah, chuck it into Google. Vanessa Van Edwards, she's fantastic. If you're struggling in this space, read her book or books, watch the podcast. I think it'll really, really help.
It's also interesting that how people are different in external social settings, as in their personal life versus their professional life, because we are very different, based on who we are in front of as well. So I think that also might be very interesting. So I'll definitely put that book in the link to this episode as well. The next question I have, Simon, is how do I tell my boss? And I suspect this might be the same person. I'm not sure, only because the language is very familiar. How do I tell my boss that I'm looking for opportunities outside of their organization, especially when they have been super supportive? But I know that staying here won't give me the career progression that I'm after. It's not about the income, it's pure career progression. Also, will the boss feel bad?
Yeah. It depends on your boss, man. Like, it really does. Like, I think let's assume for a second. Let's just assume that the manager or boss in this scenario is a generally good person. I'd like to make that assumption, and apologies to this person if that's not the case. If this person is not a good person, and when I say good, they're not like empathetic or caring or like that, then don't tell them and just leave. But if they are a genuinely good person, if they have shown interest in investing in you and coaching you, supporting you, and that means giving direct feedback. That means giving critical feedback as well, not just being all happy and sunshine and roses all the time. But if they've shown that to you, then it really is on you to have courage to sit down and say exactly what you've written in that question. Say that exact thing to them.
Correct.
It will be terrifying right up until the moment that you start speaking. And as soon as you start speaking and get it off your chest and tell them, you will feel a million times better. I know because I've done it multiple times. And it's really hard. And if they are the right kind of manager, they will, of course they'll feel bad, because any manager who's worth their salt is going to care about their team, and they're going to be they'll be gut wrenched. They'll be like, because they'll feel, I feel like I've failed this person. They haven't, but they'll feel like that because a good manager will, right? Because why can't I have?
Yeah.
I wish I could have provided them the opportunities they're looking for in this team and with us.
Yeah.
And they'll know the realities of this situation in the business and whether or not they can make something happen or not. But I think at least give them the opportunity, because you never know what might come from that conversation. Bare minimum, they'll be able to be a great reference for you in your next job. So it's that one. I'm sorry. It's like pulling the pin on a grenade. It just takes
it is
courage, You've
Yep.
just really got to believe in yourself. But base it on the interactions you've had with your manager up until now. Because if you reflect back on your relationship with your manager, if you think it's at a point where they have invested in you and they're a really positive and genuine person that they care about you, go for it. If it's the opposite of that, then just protect yourself, leave the business, and just never
Yeah.
worry about it ever again.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? Unfortunately, sometimes it's even a kick up the ass for some of the managers where they're like, now I need to do something. I'm about to lose this person. Now let me
Yeah,
go around, get some budget, get some funding, create a job out of thin air that didn't exist because I don't want to lose this person. But that's when things turn to shit as well. But at the same
can
time, I
do.
agree with you. It's not even a bad thing. It's also can be a sad thing because then the manager will be like, I'm about to lose one of my best employees, but they'll be happy for you as well because they'll know this is the right thing for you to do as
Yeah,
well. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And back to the previous question, it was funny if this was the same person because you're
Mm,
absolutely right. The manager, there's a saying in business, the manager is always the last person to know about anything
mm,
that's going
mm,
on in the
mm,
team,
mm.
particularly when it comes to this. And you can't expect the manager to know or to mind read, or to kind of see your achievements
Correct.
and be thinking about your career progression all the time. They have a lot of other responsibilities. And it might just be a
100%.
scenario where they're just smashed from all fronts. They haven't had a chance to
Mm,
think about it. You haven't said anything. And in the absence of
mm.
information, they're going to assume that everything's fine. So
Correct.
you
Correct.
gotta tell them what's happening, so
Yeah.
then they're in a position to
Yeah.
actually do something about it.
Correct. And it also depends on your relationship with your manager, right? I remember when I've been lucky enough to have some really good managers and I've always had good relationships. So even if I've started to look outside, I've actually given them a heads up to say, look, these are the reasons why I'm not happy. If we can make changes, well and good. If not, in next 3 months, I'm going to start looking. And they've actually been encouraging when they've seen that, cultural changes have happened, can't do anything about it. It's not going to change anytime soon. They've actually been like, yep, I would tell them I'm going for an interview. Yep, all good. This is the kind of relation you can have, but it really depends on your circumstances, what's happening in the organization. And you're right. Our managers don't have a crystal ball. So if we're not going to speak up and say, they're not going to know. So 100% agree
Exactly.
with you, Simon. Yeah, yeah. Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, anything else to add to that, Simon? Otherwise, look, this is short, sharp, sweet. We want to keep it very, very simple. Just get into the nitty gritty and let people know what our experience is, what we think, and keep it short, sharp, and punchy.
No, I think it's great. I think hopefully the person who wrote those questions is listening because I think we have fundamentally changed their world. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not that self-absorbed. But no, this has been fun. I'd love to jump back on any opportunity I get in the future.
Yeah, 100%, Simon. I think I'm going to take you up on that as well. And as the platform continues to grow, more questions come in, more confessions. We're going to get different people, different backgrounds, probably get some candidates in as well. I'd love to get candidate perspectives on when we see, because when you go into the platform, you can actually see people have broken down their confessions or questions, whether they're recruiter, hiring manager, candidate, or other. So we can break it down. But Simon, thank you so much for coming on the drop. And yeah, we are going to release our first episode next week.
Awesome. Looking forward to
All
it.
right. Cheers. Thank you, Simon. Take
See
care,
ya.
everyone. Bye.